Hi class, in this video I would like to show you how to complete a week 2 project. So I've got week 2 project open, or actually let's go ahead and open week 2 project, see what we have in store here. So as we can see, what we're doing for week 2 project is we're going to use gradients to bring paths, to add a little bit of depth, dimension, and volume to the page. So if you take a look at the course announcement, welcome to week 2, you will see all sorts of tutorials right down here on the gradient tool. Here's the gradient tool, and then here's the freeform gradient tool. So be sure that you get those locked up and under your belt before you go ahead and take this video. Otherwise, things may not make sense. So what I'm going to do is here is I'm going to get back to the assignment. So you need to find an image. And what you're going to do is you're going to lock down a template layer as an image, and you're going to use that image as a template to create an illustration. Now, at this point, I want to bring you over here. I want you to bring you to week 2, this project video tutorial. In this video, he shows you how to create this.
Hello, class. Welcome to ARC 432 Digital.
Shows you how to create, how to lay an image down on the template layer, okay? And in this video, he has you lock the layer and reduce the transparency, which is the same as creating a template layer. Template layer is it's just one click instead of having to lock the layer, then go in and reducing the opacity. The benefit of doing it manually, locking the layer and going in and changing the opacity, is that you can adjust the opacity. If you find the template layer leaves it too dark, then you can't see detail, then by all means go ahead and lighten that up. Okay, but I just want to make sure you understand that the technique I'm going to use is identical. This is an illustration. I'm sorry, this is an image. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an illustration. Let me show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this guy right here. And this is perfect for the assignment because it teaches you that you're going to practice your pen tool, you're going to practice your pencil tool, you're going to practice coloring techniques, you're going to practice gradient tool, some blurring, and some techniques used to employ depth, dimension, and volume in the assignment. And these are the 7 to add visual depth. Okay, we have overlap, we have law of diminishing size, perspective and diagonals, depth of field, color, vertical placement, shading, and texturing. I'm going to show you some examples of how to do this. Okay, so right now, as I said, this is going to be my illustration that I'm going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate the lion and the tree. And then we're going to take some embellishments here. We don't have to include it. Remember, the assignment only includes one foreground element. Then we have the moon for the background element. This will act as a horizon, by the way, guys. So a horizon is required. So that'll act as the horizon. So we have all of our requirements met, okay? So from here, I'm going to jump over to my actual illustration. That's something I've been working on. And I've got this defined as a template layer. Okay, and by that, I mean, if I come over here, and if you come over here and click that template layer, you can see it's clicked right now. That's what it'll do. It'll come to this hamburger menu, this flyout menu, come to template, click that, and it's going to lock that layer. You'll have to create a new layer to illustrate on. Right now, I've got this layer 3, which is I've got that there for a second, for a purpose, and I'll show you in a second. Right now, I've got the template layer. You can see if I turn that off, and we're going to make sure that's locked, and then my illustration is right there, okay? So if I turn the template layer off, we can see there's the illustration. Okay, now what I want to do here, excuse me, is I want to go ahead and add some techniques. This is the basic from the video from week 1, how to color. Remember, I showed you that. I showed you how to use the pencil tool, the pen tool, and live paint in conjunction with one another in order to create this line contour drawing that you can add color to. Okay, so we're going to just use that. Okay, now what I want to do here is I'm just going to come over to the illustration layer right there, and I'm going to add the tree, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the moon. Now I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to turn the recording off so you don't really have to watch, but let's go. Actually, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead. I'm going to use the pencil tool to create the tree because it's not an exact. I mean, it's pretty organic lines. So let's go make sure we're on our illustration layer. I'm going to come right to my pencil tool, And I'm just going to start creating this kind of organic tree. Okay, and I'm going quickly, but of course you're going to take your time on this. Okay, there's our tree, and then we can go ahead and color that tree with the same technique shown to use the in the lion. I'm going to stop the recording right now so that you guys aren't stuck here watching. So let's go ahead and I'll pick this up in 1 second. As you can see, I've got the tree and I've got the lion. Let's go over to our layers panel and we can take a look. Let's turn the template off so we see. Oh, looks like we're getting somewhere, doesn't it? That's looking really, really good. All right, so I think the only thing really we have left to do is add the gradient in the background and then add that beautiful moon. So let's go ahead and do that. So to add the gradient, let's go ahead back to our layer, our template layer. And we're just going to go ahead and let's do this. I want to do this. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go ahead and do this. We're gonna go ahead and draw. Actually, you know what? I don't think I'm going to demonstrate this, guys, for brevity's sake, because this is all covered in how to create a gradient in these 2 tutorials here in the announcement. So I'll just go ahead and create this a gradient. I'll be back, and then I'll show you how to do the moon and wrap this up. And you know what, let's just go ahead and demonstrate this. Sorry about that, guys. So right here, I've got the gradient tool. I've got my gradient defined right here, okay? So I'm going to show you something. I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my rectangular tool, make sure I'm on my layer 2. That's my illustration layer. And you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and name that right now. Okay, so we're on layer 2. Let's go ahead and add that gradient. So let's go ahead and we'll just go ahead and create a gradient the size of the document. Okay, and there's the gradient, right? So what we need to do is go to the gradient tool. And to do so, we'll just click that button right there. And we'll come over here to our gradient. I've got that loaded already, so we'll just go ahead and do that. Now, as we can see, I want the gradient to go to be not placed vertically, but horizontally. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here, hold my, I'm going to just go ahead and rotate that. Gradient will change, and I can bring this down accordingly how I want it. I don't quite want it like that, but I do want it like that. That's looking great, right? And you can experiment and play with your gradient as much as you want. But at this point, my gradient's set. Okay, now as you can see, the gradient is in front of the illustration. Why? Also, the gradient has a stroke on it. I don't want that. I'm going to select the gradient. Let's take that stroke and remove it. Okay, now as we can see, the gradient is in front of the illustration. If I turn my template layer off, I don't see anything here, right? The reason being is because the rectangle for the gradient is above the illustration. So we're just going to take that and move it below, and there's our illustration. Looking fantastic, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and illustrate that, that moon. And I'm going to pause this for 1 second, and then we'll just set it up, and I'll show you how to complete that beautiful moon in the background. I see that right now I'm being obstructed. I can't see my template layer because the rectangle layer is over it. So let's turn that off. Then we'll go back up to our illustration layer there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my ellipse tool. Now the ellipse tool is also going to turn into a perfect circle once you hold the shift key down. So I'm going to start from the center, and I'm just going to hold my, whoops, didn't want to do that. Let me Command C that. Whoops. Okay, hold my shift key, hold my option key down, and that's going to bring out the circle from the center. So as long as I get it closely to the same, relatively close to the same size, that's fine right there. Now, I don't want that gradient, right? So we're going to click off that artwork. Let's select that, and we're going to come over here, and we're just going to add a color. Oh, it's still a gradient. We don't want that gradient. So let's remove the gradient. Sorry about that. We're just going to go ahead and remove that gradient by clicking a color. There's the color white, right? We can use white, or we can use yellow, whatever you think is more appropriate, we can use. So, but what I want to see is this. There's a couple little lines in that. So I'm going to put that back there. Let's go ahead and remove the color from for now. and we can come in here. Let's turn off the actual illustration. Let's turn off the lion and the live paint. Now we can come in here and kind of add these. If you want, you can add stuff like that. I'm not going to do it right now, but you get the idea, right? So let's turn those layers back on. Okay, now what I'm going to do with this is let's go ahead and add a really light colored. There, actually, I'm not crazy about that. That's much better. Okay, so what we want to do is now, remember in the announcements, we have that one technique for adding depth and dimension and indicating depth, and that is called depth of field. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that moon, and since we can't really say that this is going to fall under the law of diminishing size because the moon is bigger than the lion. So we're going to use a different technique. This technique is called selective focus, depth of field. We're going to blur the background to make it look like it's a little bit more in distance. And to do so here, we're just going to go to our effect. We're going to go to effect. I've got that selected now. We're going to go to effect and come down to blur, and I'm going to say Gaussian blur. We'll select that, and we're just going to turn the preview on. And look at that beautiful blur. If you want to see a better shot of that, let's go ahead and turn off that template layer in the background. Let me cancel that, turn the template layer off. We'll go ahead, effect, blur, Gaussian blur, preview. Ooh, looking good, looking good. Okay, I think it's a little too much, so we're going to pull that radius down a little bit. Okay, that's looking great. Let's okay that. Okay, now we'll turn our rectangle back on, and I had my template layer back on for now, but there's a problem, right? And inside your head, you should be saying to yourself, okay, I know what to do here. I need to adjust my layers panel to make sure the sun, the moon, or the sun, whatever it is, it's something that's behind the scene. So of course we just take that. That's our ellipse, right? We move that right below, right there. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now we can turn off these layers. Take a look at our template layer. Take a look at what we've got. And we can see we've got a really gorgeous little illustration here, actually covering all of the requirements of the assignment. We've got the horizon, we've got the background image, we've got the foreground image. Now, if we turn off those layers, you can see that you've got some other elements here, and feel free to add those other elements in. Feel free, please do. Take it as far as you want, as far as you're comfortable. Just take it as far as you like. Okay, now again, I just want to say I will leave this file here for you to study, but along with this video. But I just also want to mention the exact same technique can be used with a photograph. If you place a photograph in there, it's a little bit trickier, but that is the technique that Professor Waterman covers in this video. Okay, so just a little bit of differences, but in essence, the general formula is identical. Okay, so all right, there you have it, guys. So try to use these techniques, and please don't forget to go in the announcements and take all of those tutorials. I really leave a bunch of really good stuff in there. Okay, all right, guys. Sorry this took almost 15 minutes, but I wanted to be as thorough as possible to prevent any problems. That gives you a really great synopsis of the assignment. So if you have any questions at all, please contact your instructor. Contact me directly. Let me know if you have any questions or if I can clarify anything that's covered in the video. All right, great. Thanks, guys.